Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing Season 1 of His Dark Materials. So, before I do head into my Season 1 review of His Dark Materials, spoilers. I think I'm definitely going to have some spoilers in here, but like, nothing terribly huge, I don't think. I don't know, maybe for your own safety, if you've not caught up with this show, you might not want to watch this video, because I'm not really sure just yet what exactly I'm going to be saying in this video, so I don't know what's going to be a spoiler to somebody and what's not going to be a spoiler. So yeah, for your own safety and concern, if you've not seen His Dark Materials Season 1, or if you've not read the books by Philip Pullman, yeah, you might want to stay clear of this video for right now. So, yeah, my thoughts and feelings on Season 1 of His Dark Materials, you guys. We got 8 episodes airing on the BBC over in the UK and HBO here in the US. And yeah, based off of the very first book in His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, based off of The Golden Compass. This first season, you guys, overall, I really enjoyed it. I was very impressed with it. I'm not going to lie. I actually really enjoyed the Golden Compass movie back when it was released. That one starred Nicole Kidman and Ava Green and Daniel Craig. I personally really liked that movie because I watched that movie before even reading the books. I read the books after that. But yeah, I think for the most part, I think this TV series adaptation was definitely probably an improvement upon the movie for sure, because the TV series with 8 episodes, they had room to kind of take their time with this very complex narrative and complex characters, complex world building. They were able to take their time with all of that and really enhance and flesh out certain things, and yeah, also kind of rearrange a few things, which we'll get into. Overall, I really enjoyed this first season. I was very impressed with it. I think the CGI for me was a big deal heading into this season, you guys, because His Dark Materials, it's a fantasy series for kids, and there's a lot of fantastical elements to it. You got everybody who has their demons, essentially, you know, their animal companions that are their soul when you think about it. Everybody has their demons. You have talking polar bears that wear armor. There's just so many things going on in this first book in particular, and yeah, they really needed a good budget for this to really show all that detail and whatnot. So yeah, CGI for me and special effects were a very big deal, and I think for the most part they knocked it out of the park. I think they were still limited a little bit with the budget, because once again, the demons, you don't really see a hell of a lot of demons throughout this first season, because you see Pan, who is Lyra's demon, and you see Roger's demon. You do see Mrs. Coulter's monkey demon. You do see him quite a lot, I think, compared to a lot of other people's demons. But then, yeah, like Lord Asriel's demon, Stelmaria, I mean, you barely even see Stelmaria, you guys. And then, yeah, I feel like sometimes the show was kind of cheating with their budget and being like, oh, some people have like little small demons, like someone might have a spider, or someone might have a fly, or someone might have a roach, or someone might have a snake, because then the snake, like, it can just peek out of someone's sleeve. You know, we don't have to do a whole snake, we can just do the head of a snake coming out of someone's sleeve. I do feel like sometimes the CG was a little lazy almost, like, we gotta be conservative with our budget, because even though everybody in this world has a demon, we can't really show that everybody has one, because it's too much. So, that's one downside to me, is the demons, because I just love the demons. It's such a unique idea that Philip Pullman presents in this entire trilogy. I was a little frustrated with that you just don't see demons, you know. It's like there should be demons in every frame, you know. There should be a demon in practically every frame that you're watching, because they're connected and tied to all these characters, you know? So yeah, that was a little bit of a frustration for me, but still, the CGI overall in the show was spectacular, I think. I also think the casting was very spot on. I'll kind of get into some of that later. Yeah, costuming, I really love the costuming. The costuming is just so interesting because you can't really place where Lyra's world is, you know, because there's almost something about the clothing that feels modern, but then it also feels like almost like the 1930s or 40s almost. So I really like the clothing that, you know, you're not really sure where to kind of place things, but you know it takes place in the modern day, essentially, just judging from the character of Will, you know. And yeah, I also really enjoyed, I'm sitting here looking at my notes, you guys, I also really enjoyed that elements of the prequel trilogy were introduced in this series, from the first book, Book of Dust, because yeah, in that book you find out how Lyra gets to Jordan College exactly. So I love that the Book of Dust was actually cleverly introduced into the first episode. That was really cool. And yeah, as far as things that I did really enjoy about this first season, I mean, I really loved, you know, because of the budget, as much of budget as they were, I think, allotted. I mean, everything felt big, you know. This felt like a huge open world that you can travel in. It did, it felt just as big as something like The Lord of the Rings, or Game of Thrones, or Narnia, or something, or Harry Potter, you know what I mean? Things didn't feel trapped or confined in certain areas. I mean, you would see the characters kind of traveling, and then you would get these big epic shots of like an area, you know, mountains or fields of green or whatever. You really got a good sense of how big this world is. You know, it didn't feel so confined. I also really liked like the Egyptian society. The Egyptians are a big part of the first book, and you kind of learn little bits of detail with them, but I really feel like this first season, because Lyra spends time with them, and she spends a prolonged amount of time with them, you really got to know a lot about the Egyptians and their culture and their way of life and whatnot, and yeah, how Lyra fits into that, because they're always remarking that she would make a great Egyptian, you know, and you get to see that, you get to see her relationships with the various different Egyptian people and whatnot. So yeah, I really love the extended look of the Egyptians, because I think I ended up enjoying a lot of their stuff more so than I did like in the book, to be quite honest. And yeah, the big threat of this entire trilogy is the Magisterium. The Magisterium being kind of like this, I don't want to say religious cult, I don't know if religious cult is the right word for it, but it might be, but yeah, them essentially kind of being the equivalent of the Catholic Church, I suppose. I really loved the deeper dive into the Magisterium, because in the books you are very focused on Lyra and Will's point of view, and then every so often you'll go to some points of view of other characters. But I feel like in the books I never really got a good idea of the Magisterium, you know, who and what they were. It's like I got the basic idea of them, but I really feel like this first season, because you do have 8 episodes, they were able to go into a deeper dive into the Magisterium and really show how vile and evil these people are, and really get into the crux of their motives and agendas, I suppose. So yeah, I really liked the Magisterium, making that a bigger, huger threat here in this very first season, since they are such a big deal as the books progress and whatnot. So let's talk about some of the new interesting things they decided to do here with this first season, because like I said, this first season is based off of the Golden Compass, but this first season was like, no, we're going to go ahead and start introducing the subtle knife, because the subtle knife is book 2 to this series, and they were like, we're going to go ahead and start introducing some stuff there. And at first I was a little worried about this. When they started introducing Will, and when they started introducing the idea of the parallel universes, I had my concerns at first, you guys. Not gonna lie, because I was like, oh my god, this is too much, this is too soon. We need to focus on what needs to be focused on, you know? But I ended up really actually liking and appreciating that elements of the subtle knife were introduced in this first season. Because the more and more I thought about it, I was like, well, you know what? This goes ahead and omits a lot of potentially unnecessary exposition as we head into the second season, you know? Because, yeah, it's like, God, what episode was that, you guys? Because it was early in the first season when Lord Boreal, we see him walking around and then he just pops right onto that parallel universe portal, you guys. I can't remember what episode that was, but it was very early. And I remember thinking, oh my dear God, I can't believe they just did that. But yeah, I mean, I like that the idea of the parallel universes, it's out there, we know about it, it's not a surprise to anybody now. And then, yeah, the same with Will Perry. I really like that they were able to, you know, really introduce him in a proper fashion, because when you're introduced to Will in The Subtle Knife, you're kind of in the middle of events with him. Things have kind of already happened. And when he's mostly telling backstory to Lyra when they first meet. So I liked, in this first season, okay, we're going to go ahead and introduce Will, and we're going to show his backstory rather than tell his backstory later, you know, rather than him telling Lyra his backstory. So I really like that we got introduced to Will, we got introduced to his mother and her kind of her mental health issues and whatnot. And yeah, how he kind of gets wrapped up into this whole thing with Lord Boreal and Lord Boreal's men going after him and whatnot. It just leads nicely to season 2, I think, with introducing him, because yeah, now we know Will, we're familiar with him, he's not going to be an unknown entity to us heading into the second season. So I think that was interesting choices made by the part of the writers and whoever, you know, the showrunners. Definitely interesting choices to set up, hey, we got parallel universes and portals. It's not going to be a secret. We're letting you know immediately that's a thing. And yeah, we're introducing Will because he is such a huge character. Because I would almost argue, you guys, that Will, even though Lyra is incredibly important to the overall story, I almost feel like Will is the more important character and perhaps maybe the more interesting character at times. Going back to the demons really quickly, because I already mentioned my frustrations with the lack of budget there, that, you know, you didn't see everybody's demon, you know, because when people are like walking down a hallway, it just felt kind of odd, like, where's their demon? Because not everybody would have like a small little demon that could fit in their pocket or fit in their sleeve or something, you know. They're in the books, it's described that a lot of people have dogs or cats or whatever, you know. So that's one problem, like I mentioned. But another big thing for me when it came to demons, just the taboos associated with demons. Because in Philip Pullman's books, you know, the demons, they're a representation of your soul. They're a representation of puberty, in a sense. Because before you hit puberty, your demon changes and fluctuates before they finalize into their final form that they're going to be once you do hit puberty. And yeah, a big taboo with demons is like the whole notion of like touching someone else's demon. And that was a big thing for me that I wish the show had kind of explored a little bit better and like really had a moment of like shock and terror, because there's many moments when like Lyra is picked up and then like Pan is picked up and handled, and it's a very powerful moment in the books whenever Pan is touched by somebody else, because it almost feels like a sort of sexual assault, almost, you know what I mean? It's very disturbing and creepy whenever somebody picks up somebody's demon, because it's a big no-no, it's a big taboo. So I really wish the show had kind of really hit that point, like, You do not touch somebody's demon because it is disturbing and creepy as hell. So that's something else I was a little frustrated with, that the show didn't explore those various different taboos in regards to demons. You know, the rules of demons. You know what I mean? Because Philip Pullman kind of really lays all of that out. You know, the do's and don'ts with demons. And speaking of demons again, you guys, because I'm worried about forgetting this, one other thing I was upset about, and I'm not the only one, because every single review that I have read for the season, especially if it's book readers, everybody complained about the same thing I was upset about, and that's in the one episode when Lyra, she takes Uric, and they go track down Billy Costa, and he's in that shed or warehouse or whatever. He's in that little shed, and his demon is not there, but he's sitting there clutching a dead fish. This dead fish kind of being a center of comfort for him, a replacement for his lost demon, because he has no demon anymore because he's been cut. Him and his demon have been cut. That is one of the most powerful images in that very first book, is Tony Costa. Billy. It's Billy, right? Is when Billy is holding that dead fish. And I really feel like the show missed out on an amazing opportunity there to really have an emotional moment with him holding that fish. And then, even when he dies and they bury him, Lyra gives that fish to him. She lays it on his corpse and whatnot. And it's just so moving and powerful. It makes me cry in the book. And I just did not feel that it was anywhere near as emotionally powerful as it should have been in the show, unfortunately, because I wasn't really moved. It's like I was sad, but I wasn't moved. I was only crying. I started crying because the Egyptians were sitting there singing their little funeral song or whatever, and that's what got me to cry. But I feel like I'm just really all over the place with this review, you guys. I don't really have any sort of organization to it. I'm just kind of reading off my notes here. But I do want to get into just the characters and the acting really quickly here. Starting with Daphne Keane, who played Lyra. Daphne Keane was very, very good in this, you guys. I do think her performance in Logan was much better, to be honest, because that's what I first saw her in. But I did still really like her as Lyra. I think it was taking her several episodes to really get into the character of Lyra, you know what I mean? But I do think by the time you get to the final episode of the season, I do get the sense that Daphne Keane felt comfortable in the role, and she really was starting to understand Lyra and whatnot. Amazing performance by Daphne Keane. I'm very excited to see what she does with Lyra in seasons 2 and 3, as we get through the next books and all. Because there's some truly amazing, powerful moments that are to come with the character of Lyra. And I'm just very excited to see what Daphne Keane does. And I adored Pan. Pan was the most adorable, precious thing in this entire season, you guys. Then we have Ruth Wilson, who played Mrs. Coulter. Ruth Wilson was definitely far and away the goddamn highlight of this entire season, you guys. Because that's another thing I was seeing about this entire season, is that people who were having problems with the season, because there were the people who loved the season, and then there were the people who just were not into it at all. But the people who were not even into the season that much, the one common thing everybody had was that Ruth Wilson was the standout performance and the reason why you watch this season. And I definitely gotta agree. I mean, I loved everything about this season, but Ruth Wilson, she was giving it 100% with this character and really making Mrs. Coulter terrifying, but also a very powerful, intelligent woman, because she's kind of one of the only main women, especially in this society largely run by men here. And yes, she was terrifying and creepy, but very powerful and intelligent and manipulative and sexy and seductive. And I really love the amount of emotional moments they gave her too. Kind of really getting into her headspace and kind of getting to that thing of she's a little bit insane. She's been through a lot. She's done a lot. She's lost Lord Asriel. She's lost Lyra over the years. I mean, for God's sake, that one scene, you guys, where she steps onto the edge of the balcony and I was like, oh my god, is she about to throw herself off the balcony? I was a little terrified, because that was definitely something that was never in the books. You know, really, really getting in. Ruth Wilson did an amazing job getting into the headspace of Mrs. Coulter and really fleshing her out emotionally, I feel like. And yeah, I loved the monkey, her demon, the monkey, because he's always just called the monkey. We never get a name for the monkey, you guys. That poor little monkey, the monkey is creepy at times, but he's also very sweet and cute. And there was that one moment, just those moments when Mrs. Coulter, because it's supposed to be, right, if I got this correct, hopefully I don't got this confused, you guys, it's supposed to be that Mrs. Coulter and the monkey, they are split. Right? That's correct, right? They are split. That's kind of why she's the way she is and why the monkey kind of behaves the way that it does, because they are split. There's like, there's moments when she's sitting there like hurting her own demon. You guys, she's harming her own demon, and it's kind of painful and horrible to watch. The thing is though, because the demon is an extension of yourself, I mean, it's a way of her doing self-harm to herself by inflicting harm on her demon, you know? And yeah, those scenes were just some of the hardest to watch whenever she was hurting her demon, you know? It's like, oh, because then I would feel bad for the monkey. Then we have James McAvoy as Lord Asriel. I really like the choice of James McAvoy for Lord Asriel. I don't really have too much to say about him because he's literally in episode 1, and then the very, very end of episode 7, and then he's throughout episode 8. But yeah, what we do get with Lord Asriel, I really liked James McAvoy's performance, and I'm very intrigued to see what he continues to do with Lord Asriel, because Lord Asriel is more in the books as you progress and whatnot. But yeah, I really liked kind of getting into his psychology and the things, his motives and agendas. And yeah, God, his rough relationship with Lyra, you guys, that's some pretty rough stuff right there, because he is definitely not father material, because yeah, that's a big thing you learn there too. Lyra, her mother and father, are Lord Asriel and Mrs. Coulter. So yeah, he's not much of a father to her, unfortunately, but yeah, James McAvoy did a great job. And yeah, I loved Stelmaria. I wish Stelmaria had been in it a little bit more, you know. Once again though, I think just too much with their budget, and yeah, I think a lot of the budget went to York, you guys. Okay, so we have, then we have I think his name is pronounced Arian Bakar, and he played Lord Boreal. Lord Boreal, I want to say he makes a cameo appearance in the first book, but then you don't really see more of him until book 2. I was very pleasantly surprised with Lord Boreal being throughout season 1. I like that his presence was fleshed out. You know, his presence was fleshed out. He was made into a bigger threat. He was presented more as a villain. You know, rather than introducing him in rather than introducing him in season 2 just all of a sudden. He's here throughout season 1. And yeah, he's doing a lot of the dirty work, essentially, for Mrs. Coulter. And yeah, tracking down Will and whatnot. So yeah, Arian Bakar, I really loved him playing Lord Boreal. Just one of the most pleasant surprises coming out of this first season, I think. Yeah, another pleasant surprise for me was James Cosmo playing Farter Quorum. James Cosmo, I've seen him throughout various different things over the decades with him. Yeah, most recently he was on Game of Thrones and whatnot. I really loved him as Farter Quorum. Because I don't really remember too terribly much about Farter Quorum in the books. I mean, other than, you know, Lyra spends time with him when she's with Egyptians and whatnot. But yeah, I think the show did a good job of fleshing out his character and really fleshing out his backstory, especially with Serafina Pecola. Yeah, he definitely had some really good emotional moments there, just with his character and with Serafina, and then yeah, with Lyra. So yeah, James Cosmo, another plus to the season. I also really liked Anne-Marie Duff playing Ma Costa. Yeah, because in the book, once again, the Egyptians have their roles, but they're not fleshed out that much. So I really liked Ma Costa's role being fleshed out more and really presenting her as kind of a substitute mother figure to Lyra, you know, especially since Mrs. Coulter is out of the picture. So yeah, I loved Ma Costa. Let's talk about Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yeah, guys. When I first heard that Lin-Manuel Miranda was going to be playing Lee Scoresby, I was like, wait, what? Because Lee Scoresby is supposed to be this Texan, you know? And I was like, when I think of people from Texas, I don't think of Lin-Manuel Miranda. So, I ended up really being quite pleasantly surprised with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he worked for me personally. I know he didn't work for some people because I think some people were conflicted with him. Some people loved him, some people hated him. For me though, I think Lin-Manuel Miranda, he worked. In my opinion, he worked. I found him lovable and goofy and charming. Yeah, just a completely different version of Lee Scoresby than I was expecting, because I think I've always had a certain look and feel of Lee Scoresby, and Lin-Manuel Miranda kind of was doing his own thing with that character, and I kind of appreciated that. And yeah, I can't wait to see more of him in the upcoming seasons. That's for sure. And then we have Ruta Gementa. I think that's how her name is pronounced. Ruta Gementa playing Serafina. I'm not quite sure how I felt about Serafina in this adaptation. We don't get a hell of a lot of her. She kind of shows up just out of nowhere and randomly, and it just felt odd whenever she would pop up because there just wasn't much lead up to it, I suppose. And for me personally, like I said, I really liked the Golden Compass movie. I freaking loved Ava Green as Serafina, you guys. I feel like Ava Green did a far better job with Serafina. I don't know if that's just me. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about Serafina yet until we probably get into the next couple seasons. Because, yeah, Ruta Gementa, if I'm even pronouncing her name correctly, I mean, she didn't really have a hell of a lot to work with. You know what I mean? She didn't get much to work with, unfortunately. But I did love her scene with Farter Coram, though. That was probably my favorite scene with her, was with Farter Coram. But yeah, I need more with her. And then we have Llewyn Lloyd, who played Roger. Roger was definitely another highlight this season. He was a fantastic little boy actor. He really stood his own against the adults. He really stood up there with Daphne Keane, I think. And yeah, Roger had, some of those really intense emotion moments right there in that final episode when he gets killed. Yeah, guys. So yeah, I'm going to miss Roger. I'm going to miss Roger because he was so great. And then yeah, Amir Wilson playing Will. Like I've already mentioned, I'm really glad and appreciative that Will was introduced. Even though I had my concerns at first, I'm really glad that he was introduced and we got some of his exposition out of the way so we can kind of jump into season 2 when it happens, Yeah, Amir Wilson, I really liked him. He definitely feels like he's embodying the spirit of Will. I really feel Will coming off of him right now, and I can't wait to see him take more of a lead as we head into the next couple seasons. And then, yeah, Andrew Scott, you guys. Andrew Scott playing John Perry. We don't really get to see too much of Andrew Scott because he's mostly either seen in, like, photographs or, yeah, that one video clip that, like, Laura Boreal's watching. I was really thrilled that we got to see Andrew Scott this early in the show, but yeah, he'll definitely play an important part in the upcoming seasons for sure. And then yeah, Yorick Burnison, you guys. I was eagerly anticipating Yorick Burnison, the armored bear. I loved the voice, I loved the CGI, I loved his love and tenderness towards Lyra because he's a big, gruff, grumpy bear, but he loves Lyra. He'll do anything for Lyra. So yeah, Yorick did not disappoint. I loved it. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on season 1 of his Dark Materials. Overall, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised by a few things. My biggest disappointments mostly had a lot to do with just the way the demons were, because it's like people would have demons, but then, well, where's the other people's demons, in the background? There should be demons everywhere, So yeah, I had my concerns and frustrations with just overall the demons, because I feel like that should have been a much bigger thing going on in this show. And I feel like this first season, even though I did love it, I do think next season it needs a bit of a better focus. It needs to focus on what it needs to be focusing on. Because sometimes I do feel like this second season sometimes things almost felt like filler, and it wasn't focusing on the things that needed to be focused on, if that makes sense. So yeah, you guys, in the comments below, have you guys seen season 1 of His Dark Materials, and what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? If you hated it, that's okay, because I really would love to hear all opinions about this first season. And yeah, what are you looking forward to with season 2? So yeah, guys, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.